This next game was played at the Marshall Chess Club in New York City in February 2023. It was a rapid tournament, which means we have 25-minute time controls on each side of the board. My opponent, Oliver Shernan, is a national chess master and life master, which means he has 300 consecutive tournament games without falling below the 2200 level rating. In other words, he is a very strong chess player. Him and I, through the years, have had a few great games, really tough battles, a couple of draws, a couple of losses on my side. I've never managed to squeeze out a win against him. He always manages to find something on me at the very end, and now it's becoming psychological that I cannot beat him. So, I knew I had to pull out all the stops here. I knew I had to get creative. I had to harness my inner Magnus Carlsen, and this was also the final round of the tournament, and there was prize money on the line, which gave me extra incentive to win this game. So without further ado, let's get into it. Here we go. All right, so in this game, I'm playing with the black pieces, and okay. So we have a pretty normal position here, and okay. So we have like a King's Gambit type opening here. Oliver plays F4. Again, this is very, potentially very dangerous. I just try to slow things down. I don't go into any very, sharp variations here. And I just want to get out of the opening with a decent position. So notice we're both developing our pieces. This is what you want to do in chess. You want to develop and then attack. Okay, he's not trapping my bishop here because if he came here, I can just always move and trade. Okay, so he takes more of the center. This is a good move. So, okay, of course, controlling the center, great idea in chess. And he's got 3 pawns in the center. So I want to chop away at one of these pawns. Which one do? I chop away the one in the central most pawn, right? Okay, so he takes back, I take his knight, and he takes with his queen. And now he has a very centralized queen, but an open diagonal, so he's got to be careful. Okay, I go ahead and castle. And now my opponent decides to force a trade of bishops. And what this does is it forces me to trade the bishop and open up the A file. So I guess he liked that. Plus, he's taking up more space on the king side. So I go ahead and take and play B6. Now, what was my point behind B6? I wish I could tell you. I'm not completely sure what my point was. Maybe if after this, I want to have some. So basically, I think what my point was is, let's say he plays a move like this at some point, and this is all in the abstract right now. But I want to have support for this bishop. So if this pawn goes away at some point, I still want to have support for this bishop over here. So maybe I can get some type of tactic. That's the only thing I can think of. Okay. And I guess it was, a legit threat at some point because he moved out of the way of the diagonal. Okay. So I bring my rook into the center of the board. And now I go for this move. Now, here's where the game starts. Now, why would I just give up a pawn, seemingly? Well, when we're playing at a certain level, we don't want to have passive pieces. We never want to have passive pieces, but if you're playing at a relatively high level in chess, you're going to get punished severely if your pieces are passive and you don't have activity. So I know that my bishop has to get into the game. I can't just sit here like this. I'll get squashed. Oliver's too good. He will just steamroll me and take advantage of this. So I throw the pawn away. He takes, and my point is I can just get the pawn back, but I had a little in-between move. I play bishop c5, taking control of that diagonal, and after he moves, I could take with the knight, and that's fine. It's actually best, but I decided to get a little fancy and throw some tactics in here. Oliver snuffs it out and just parries that attack. So then I decide to take the pawn now, and he attacks my knight. I come back into the center of the board, attack his queen. We have a trade bishop for knight, and now we just make a couple pawn moves here, and Oliver is now attacking my king side. So here I actually could play g6, but I didn't play g6 because I have been checkmated so many times in my life that I am scared of playing moves like g6 because I'm scared of stuff like this happening. But here it's absolutely fine. In fact, I would take his knight here, but something like this is not scary because we have bishop f8. But it's not that specific variation. It's just in general, I'm weary about leaving my king open like that with the pawn on f6. So I decided to come back here, And now this does, you can say, well, it does break open my king side anyway. The difference is there's no pawn on f6 though. Okay, my opponent decided to take on f7, so this is something I had to decide when I played bishop f8, that he was going to take on f7, but I determined it was really not much of a threat, and now he goes for a queen trade, which looks good because he's up a pawn, right? So you would think I would avoid the queen trade because I'm down a pawn, but no, I go for the queen trade, which actually turns out to be a good move because now the position's completely drawn. Well, completely even, I should say. We don't say drawn, we say even. So it's not technically a drawn position. It's just both sides have equal chances to win here. Now, why did I do that? I'm down a pawn. Usually we don't trade when we're down material. Well, he's got double pawns, first of all, so that's the issue. And second of all, I have a bishop versus a knight on an open board in the endgame. Bishops are slightly better than knights. So I determined that, and also my king is weaker than his. His king is solid. My king was a little weak with the queens on the board. So for all these reasons, I determined that my position would be perfectly fine playing like this, and this would be the best way to play. Okay, so I just bring my rook to the 7th rank, and I do that because if I don't do that, my opponent's going to come down here and just start, gobbling up my pieces and just take control of the game. So I have to stop that. So I play rook d7, and my opponent at the same time does the same thing. He's stopping me from coming in here. The knight's also stopping it, but he's just putting added protection. Now his knight could go wherever it wants. It can wander around the board, and it doesn't have to babysit the infiltration square. Okay, so I double up my rooks. Okay, now my opponent's planning to get his king into the game. Okay, having an active king is extremely important in the endgame because with the queens off the board and the more and more pieces that come off the board, the king becomes stronger, especially in king and pawn endgames. So just preparing to get his king out. Okay, I infiltrate with my rook, and now I go for a rook trade. Oliver goes again to trade rooks with me, and I happily oblige. Now, again, I'm trading down material when I'm down material technically, but again, he's got, his pawn structure is a little weird over here, and I got the bishop, which is a much faster piece than the knight in the endgame. Okay, so I prepare to bring my king in too. And I just want to make sure I can activate my king if I have to. And now I'm just trying to make a break on the queen side of the board. Of course, if I can queen, that would be excellent. So here I realize that, okay, his knight is a little funky here. It's a little out of position. It's a little uncoordinated. It doesn't have a lot of great places to go. But I also realized that my bishop was biting on granite, so to speak. So I actually want my bishop to come around here and take this pawn and this pawn. That's my idea. So I come here, and my opponent prepares. He anticipates me coming here, right? So now when I come here, he can defend the pawn. So my opponent has a very good idea, right? However, there's one trick. Pause your videos and see if you can find what I played. It actually does not defend the pawn. I still take the pawn with the bishop. And my point is he can't take because I have this move. And wherever the knight goes, he cannot stop me from queening. So here, I actually get the pawn back. And now, material's even. I have a bishop, which I prefer to have over the knight in the endgame. And I have a passed pawn here. Now, the position is still objectively even, but I really like my chances here. So my opponent realizes he can't take. He's a very strong player. He's not going to make a mistake like that. So he decides to get his king in, and he's going to just, use his knight and king in tandem, and then to get my bishop. And then the pawn won't be able to queen because the king will be here too. Okay, so I move the pawn anyway. And again, if he takes, I just push, right? Okay, so he brings his king in, and here I just prepare to bring my king in. Now his threat was to take the bishop, and if I take, win the pawn, and now he's got a pawn lead on me, he's going to win the game, right? Well, let's take a look. My opponent played knight takes bishop. And again, if I take, he takes, and he's going to win the game. He's absolutely winning. But after knight takes bishop, pause your videos again. What did I play here? In this position, I played, and this I drew some inspiration from Magnus Carlsen because I remembered there was a similar game that Magnus Carlsen played. I think it was a blitz game. I remember seeing this, and he used the piece over here on B2 to like kind of like block his opponent's own king in from getting to the square. And that's what I did here. I just simply played pawn A2. It looks like a ridiculous move, but the knight cannot guard the square. And the knight, not only that, is actually blocking the king from coming here to guard the square. There is no way the king can't come here because the pawn defends the square. There is no way to stop me from queening. And my opponent had to resign. Well, guys, I hope you liked that game. It was a very tricky one. I have to pull out all the tricks and get very creative to beat a strong player like this. Who always, we always have some great games. But I had to pull out all the stops here. But if you like this video, if you like this content, please make sure you hit that subscribe button. Again, it allows me to know that you guys like these types of videos, and I can put more videos out like this in the future. All right, get out there, start playing some more chess, and I'll see you later.